For 500 years, Roman weapons didn't just win battles. They conquered continents. From the forests of Germania to the deserts of Mesopotamia, these blades, spears, and siege engines carved out the greatest empire the ancient world had ever seen. Every weapon told a story of brutal efficiency, engineering genius, and the iron discipline that made the legions unstoppable. This is every weapon used by the Roman legions. Swords, primary weapons. Let's begin with the blades that built an empire. Gladius Hispaniensis, the sword that conquered the world. Adopted from Spanish warriors after the Second Punic War, this short, double-edged blade was designed for devastating thrusting attacks in tight formation. Roman discipline transformed this simple weapon into an empire-building instrument, as legionaries stabbed forward from behind their shields in coordinated waves. It remained the standard sidearm for over 3 centuries, proving that battlefield effectiveness trumps elegance every time. Mine's Gladius, the refined killing tool of the early empire. Longer and more tapered than its Hispanic predecessor, this variant emerged during Augustus's reign and quickly became the preferred blade of the legions. Its improved point penetration made it even more lethal in close combat. Excavations along the Rhine frontier have uncovered dozens of these blades, testament to their widespread use during Rome's expansion into Germania. Pompey Gladius, the shortened perfection of Roman swordcraft. Named after specimens preserved in the eruption of Mount Vesuvius, this version featured a shorter, wider blade optimized for pure stabbing power. It became the standard during the 1st century AD. Weighing just over 2 pounds, it offered the perfect balance of reach and control for soldiers fighting shoulder to shoulder in the testudo formation. Fullam Gladius, the final evolution of the legion's primary blade. This late Imperial variant featured a longer point and narrower profile, reflecting changing combat doctrines as Rome faced more mobile enemies. Found primarily in Britain, it represented the legion's adaptation to frontier warfare. Despite its refinements, many veterans preferred the tried-and-true Pompey design, Spatha, the cavalry blade that eventually replaced the Gladius. Originally a longer sword used by auxiliary cavalry and Germanic troops, this weapon offered superior reach in mounted combat. As the legions faced increasing cavalry threats in the 3rd century, the Spatha gradually became standard infantry equipment. By the 4th century, every legionary carried one, marking the end of the Gladius era after 400 years of dominance. Daggers. Moving on to the legionary's backup blade, Pugio, the elegant killer on every soldier's belt. This large dagger featured a distinctive leaf-shaped blade, often elaborately decorated to display a soldier's wealth and status. Despite its decorative nature, the Pugio was a devastating close-quarters weapon. Capable of punching through mail armor, it served as both a utility tool and a last resort weapon when the Gladius was lost or broken. Spears. Throwing weapons. Next on the list, the missiles that broke enemy formations before the sword work began. Pilum, the javelin that revolutionized ancient warfare. This 7-foot throwing spear featured a unique design with a long iron shank that bent on impact, making it impossible for enemies to throw back. When it struck a shield, the weight dragged it down, forcing the enemy to discard their protection. 2 pila per legionary meant thousands of these devastating missiles filled the air before battle lines met. Heavy pilum, the shield breaker of the late Republic. Weighing up to 11 pounds, this variant sacrificed range for pure penetrating power. It could punch through shields, armor, and flesh with equal ease. Julius Caesar's legions used these weapons to devastating effect in Gaul, where they shattered Celtic shield walls before the Gladius finished the work. Light pilum, the long-range harassment tool. At just 5 pounds, this version could be thrown farther than its heavier cousin, allowing legionaries to begin their missile barrage at greater distances. It appeared during the Imperial period as tactics evolved. While less devastating on impact, the sheer volume of light piler filling the air created psychological terror in enemy ranks. Plumbata, the lead-weighted dart that multiplied Roman firepower. Also known as the Martio Barbulus, This short, weighted javelin could be carried in bundles of 5 inside a soldier's shield. Legionaries hurled these en masse just before contact, creating a devastating hail of metal. Eastern legions particularly favored these weapons during the 4th century campaigns against Persian cavalry. Verutum, the light javelin of auxiliary troops. Shorter and lighter than the pilum, this simple throwing spear lacked the sophisticated bending mechanism, but made up for it in quantity. Auxiliary units could carry multiple veruta and maintain a continuous barrage. While less famous than the pilum, these weapons killed thousands in skirmishing actions across the empire. Spears, thrusting weapons. Continuing with the spears designed for hand-to-hand combat, hasta, the veteran spear of the old Manipular Legion. Before the Gladius became standard, this sturdy thrusting spear armed Rome's most experienced soldiers, the hastati and triarii. Even after the Marian reforms made the Gladius universal, the hasta survived in specialized units. Its reach advantage proved invaluable against cavalry and in siege warfare. Missile weapons. Let's look at the ranged weapons that supported legion operations. Composite bow, the auxiliary's precision tool. While legionaries themselves rarely used bows, auxiliary archers from Syria, Crete, and Thrace provided devastating missile support. These powerful bows, crafted from wood, horn, and sinew, could penetrate armor at 200 paces. Eastern auxiliary units became legendary for their archery skills, often deciding battles before infantry engaged. Sling, the ancient weapon that never went obsolete. Simple, cheap, and devastatingly effective, slings remained in Roman service throughout the Imperial period. Balearic slingers were particularly prized, capable of striking targets with lead bullets at ranges exceeding 300 feet. Archaeological evidence shows these bullets were often inscribed with curses or insults for the enemy. Scorpio, the bolt-throwing artillery piece that brought death at distance. This torsion-powered weapon could hurl iron-tipped bolts with enough force to pin a man to a tree at 400 yards. Each legion typically fielded 60 Scorpios, providing mobile fire support during battles and sieges. Their psychological effect was immense, as the bolts arrived with little warning and devastating impact. Ballista, the stone-throwing monster of Roman siege trains. Using twisted rope or sinew for power, these weapons hurled stones weighing up to 60 pounds against fortifications and massed formations. Larger versions could reach ranges exceeding 500 yards. Julius Caesar's legions used ballistae to dominate the siege of Alesia, raining destruction on Gallic positions from multiple angles. Onager, the one-armed giant of late Roman artillery, named for its mule-like kick when fired, this single-arm torsion catapult simplified battlefield artillery while maintaining devastating power. It appeared in the 3rd century as Roman engineering adapted to resource constraints. Despite its crude appearance compared to earlier designs, the onager remained effective enough to serve Byzantine armies for centuries after Rome's fall. Siege equipment. Moving on to the specialized tools for breaking fortified positions. Battering ram, the unstoppable force against ancient gates. Protected by a mobile shed called a testudo, ram teams could approach walls under cover and begin their methodical destruction. The largest rams used iron-shod beams weighing several tons, suspended from chains for maximum impact. No gate could withstand prolonged ramming, making these weapons psychologically devastating for defenders. Siege tower, the mobile fortress that brought legionaries level with defenders. These multi-story wooden structures, sometimes reaching heights of 90 feet, allowed attackers to cross walls while protected from missile fire. Roman engineers became masters of siege tower construction, often building them in sections for rapid assembly. The sight of these towers advancing inspired terror in besieged populations. Corvus, the naval boarding bridge that turned sea battles into land warfare. This hinged gangway with a heavy spike dropped onto enemy ships, locking them together and allowing marines to storm aboard. Used primarily during the Punic Wars, the Corvus negated Carthaginian naval superiority by turning ship battles into infantry fights. Rome's legionaries proved just as deadly at sea as on land. Specialized weapons. Next, the unique tools for specific tactical situations. Dolabra, the pickaxe that doubled as a brutal weapon. Every legionary carried this combination tool for constructing fortifications, but in desperate combat, the Dolabra became a fearsome weapon. Its heavy iron head could crush helmets or punch through shields. Germanic tribesmen learned to fear legionaries wielding these in close-quarters forest fighting. Entrenching tool, the spade that built an empire. While not primarily a weapon, this tool constructed the legendary Roman marching camps that allowed legions to operate deep in enemy territory. In combat, the sharpened blade made an effective slashing weapon. Roman discipline meant every soldier carried and knew how to use this essential tool. Caltrops, the scattered spikes that crippled cavalry. These four-pointed iron stars always landed with one spike pointing upward, making them devastating against horses and barefoot infantry. Roman commanders scattered thousands of these across likely cavalry approach routes. Simple, cheap, and terrifyingly effective, they remained in use throughout the Imperial period. Lancia, the specialized cavalry spear of auxiliary units. Longer and lighter than the Huster, this weapon equipped Rome's mounted forces for devastating charge attacks. North African and Spanish cavalry particularly favored the Lancia. Its reach advantage allowed mounted troops to strike down infantry while remaining beyond sword range. Contus, the massive lance of heavy cavalry. At 12 to 16 feet long, this pike-like weapon required two-handed use, forcing riders to control their horses with their legs alone. Adopted from Persian and Sarmatian cavalry, the Contus equipped Rome's cataphract units in the late Empire. These heavily armored cavalrymen could shatter infantry formations with unstoppable charges. Naval weapons, continuing with the weapons that dominated Mediterranean warfare. Naval ram, the bronze beak that sank 1,000 ships. Mounted at the waterline, these reinforced bronze projections turned warships into floating battering rams. Roman naval tactics focused on ramming enemy vessels below the waterline, causing catastrophic flooding. The mere threat of ramming forced enemies into defensive formations, allowing Roman galleys to dictate battle tempo. Harpax, the Roman grappling device that mechanized boarding actions. This catapult-launched grappling hook embedded in enemy hulls, with an attached rope allowing Roman ships to winch themselves alongside for boarding. It appeared during the civil wars of the late Republic. More reliable than the corvus, the harpax served Roman fleets throughout the Imperial period. From the Gladius that stabbed through shield walls to the siege engines that toppled city gates, these weapons defined Roman military supremacy for half a millennium. Each blade, spear, and missile represented centuries of battlefield evolution and engineering refinement. They didn't just conquer territory, they held it. Which weapon surprised you most? Let me know in the comments below.